the chief on right now.
We have the chief right now, the Minneapolis Police Chief, John Freutel, joining us right now. Thank you so much for joining us.
Can you hear us, Chief?
Yeah, we got you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Give us an idea. A lot of people are wondering. I mean, I don't want to assume it's a safety issue, but let us know why you can't get in there, because I know you guys are trained, and I know it kills you to see the city burning, and you want to be in there.
We're talking about the 3rd Precinct, of course, Chief.
Yeah, we had I was at a fire earlier, just a few blocks down in the evening, and then we could see from our vantage point that there was a little more action going on up around closer to the 3rd Precinct building. So we've left that first fire we're at. We're waiting, and we did attempt to send in what we call a task force response. This is a response that's been modeled for these types of sort of civil unrest type of situations. We send them in a smaller group of firefighters and limit the number of apparatus. We tried to get in there, but the situation was just untenable.
When?
We've had, this was probably an hour and a half ago, I'd say maybe a little more. We tried getting in. I didn't hear the initial response. I tried to get, I knew they were sending them. I didn't have the exact time, but it's probably been an hour and a half ago was the first attempt, and it was untenable in the sense that they made a decision that was untenable, unsafe for the firefighters. We've had rocks and different type of projectiles thrown at us now the last couple nights, and it's made it very challenging, and certainly our number one priority is the safety of our firefighters. So when we have the situation where it's unsafe, we're just not going to we're going to make the decision not to enter. We're just going to back away until such time it becomes a little more tenable to maybe get our folks in. And right now we are responding in, and we are escorted in by law enforcement. We also have some National Guardsmen with us tonight, and they establish a small perimeter for us to function in, and that's a key piece of this. And if we get in where there's just a number of projectiles and rocks and those types of things thrown at us, it makes it very difficult to establish any type of perimeter to start functioning and maintain safety.
I'm sorry, Chief. So where is this perimeter that you're saying the National Guard has established? Where are they?
That was just established for any particular fire we might have tonight in that area. They're gonna either National Guard men guard personnel will escort the firefighters in, and or if they're not with us, then the Minneapolis Police Department will escort the crews in and establish a small perimeter. And I'm talking about maybe the size of an intersection, so we can at least get our vehicles in there and hook to fire hydrants and start, applying water to the fires. And that's the challenging part there. There are so many people down there, and a lot of them feel the need to throw rocks and other things at us, and it becomes a real safety issue for us.
Well, Chief, we're sorry that happens, because no one wants to see that happen to a public servant, especially someone on their way to put out a fire. But I just want to be really clear. That is your plan moving forward, is to try to get the Guard to set up the perimeter. That isn't something you've tried yet. You tried going in on your own, and they threw rocks, and you had to pull back. So I guess we're trying to get to, if the Guard was called on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and now it's 12:20 on Friday morning. When do you make the try, and has a try been made, and when do you make the try?
Yeah, matter of fact, I've been asking for an assessment probably every half hour or so just to see where we're at. I just asked for one. I was just at a different location checking on another situation, and I asked for an assessment prior to me leaving, which had been about half hour ago. I will get back to where we've been staged, and I'll ask for another assessment. I may even go over and do a visual myself to see if it's a tenable situation. We may be able to get in there. I have not had any visual eyes on that scenario, that situation over there at all. I know that we do have cameras in place, and members of the command staff are watching those cameras as we speak, and so I will rely on their assessment and their visual assessments that they're making, that we can effectively make an attempt to go in and extinguish those fires.
Chief, earlier the city of Minneapolis had tweeted out that they heard some unconfirmed reports that gas lines to that 3rd precinct have been cut and other explosive materials are in the building. How much do you know about that?
I heard the same sort of a report. That is, I have not been able to confirm that at all. I have no knowledge in regard to what may or may not be stored in the 3rd precinct. I did hear they were tried to sever a gas line, and I have no other details in regard to that at all.
Chief, how many National Guard members do you have at your disposal right now to help you?
I believe at the one location I have right now, I believe we have about 34 or 35 guard personnel with us right now tonight. And in addition, I also have Minneapolis Police Department also assigned to one of my task forces also.
And what is that? How many police officers do you have?
I just have, I believe, one task force of police officers assisting us. The rest is being handled by the National Guard.
Is it your call on whether to go in and set up the perimeter, or is that something that is the mayor involved in talking to you about that, or is
the governor?
Is Chief Arredondo?
No, we'll just make, especially when it comes to the fire scenario, that'll be our call. We'll go in if we can safely go in and like the fire I had earlier tonight. I was the first one there. I didn't have any fire trucks. I knew the fire was there. I pulled up right in front of the building, and I didn't have a perimeter. I didn't have any law enforcement. I had nobody with me. Just made the assumption or the assessment that we could get it in. I called the task force in, and we just set up, and then law enforcement came and helped establish that perimeter to protect that perimeter for us to function, and that's how we operated. So we'll make an assessment. If we can win, I can assure you we're going to go in and try to put those out. That's for sure.
Is 34 Guard members enough? I'm looking at a crowd that looks like it's several hundred, if not 1,000 or more.
Yeah, that's always, and that's, and there again, so it's, 34 guardsmen and their vehicles. And so that the vehicle always can block an intersection to limit vehicular traffic in and over our fire hoses and that type of stuff. So that would probably be effective, for now. At least we will certainly try to establish an effective perimeter with that. We can also have the option to call in additional support if we need to.
Where would you call the additional support from?
We are. I mean, when I say I'll send them to task force, I wouldn't send in all 34 guards personnel. They've been assigned to a different number. We have a certain number assigned to each of our task forces that we have established right now, and so we just asked for another task force to come in, which would include some additional security personnel or perimeter personnel for us.
Chief, are you hearing from other cities, other states, other fire departments in other states who want to come out and help? Because I know that does happen a lot when they see a situation like this going on.
Yeah, I've talked to a number of folks. I've certainly been in close contact with our very good partners in St. Paul, and they're facing the same situations we are. They are strapped for personnel as well as we are, and trying to be deal with all the situations and the fire scenarios that they have going on in St. Paul. And I just spoke to them about an hour and a half ago, and so we certainly are sharing information, and they are. They're having the same challenges that we are over here in Minneapolis.
And the challenge is safety, rocks, projectiles, inability to get in. The thing that I'm trying to connect the dots on is the governor said he was sending activating 500 National Guard members earlier today. And now I'm thinking, if this is a police station's been overrun, is on fire along with another quarter of a city block, if not more from what we can tell, I guess the thing I'm trying to connect is, why don't you have more than 34 National Guard members?
Yeah, and I guess that's all that's been assigned to us. I don't know how many are supporting law enforcement. I have no knowledge of that. I can only speak to what I have assigned to the fire department. So with the combination, I'm certainly grateful that I have them. I thank them that I have the support, because we certainly need it. And I hope that we can just keep not only the firefighters and everyone safe, but the residents of Minneapolis, and we can get through this and get these fires extinguished. Yeah,
we know you want to do that. Well, what can we do to help? What message is there that you want people to know right now that they could be of help to you?
I'll be honest with you, just be very vigilant, and don't be afraid to call. If they see something, call, and make sure that they, call 911. And even though I know 911 has been inundated with phone calls also, be very vigilant, take care. If you don't need to be in the areas, please don't go in the areas. It just isn't safe, and I would just hope people would just start to understand that there's some anger and there's some tension. They want to vent a little bit, but burning our city is not the way to do it, and especially in the buildings that serve these communities. They serve such an important role. When you talk about the drugstores and the grocery stores and some of the buildings that have been destroyed, it's very disappointing. And the Minneapolis Fire Department is there. We're going to protect the residents of Minneapolis, and we're always going to be stood up, and we're going to make sure we protect our firefighters.
Yeah, it's a good message, Chief. You know, I would make it my final question, but I've been getting so many social media asks about this. I think I know the answer. Some people want to know why you can't do an airdrop on it like it was a forest fire.
Yeah, you know, I have to be honest. I've been around a long time and don't think I haven't thought about that. I don't know anybody has a helicopter right now. I mean, you know, that it does make some sense. You know, but there again, that's a whole other thing that we don't do. We're structural firefighters, and we use fire trucks and everything's, you know, ground monitors and hand lines off the fire trucks. But that is not something that I tell you, I certainly have thought about, and if that's even a possibility, even try something like that. So it's whoever sent that message in, I mean, they're thinking. I appreciate that. And that's they certainly have some understanding and knowledge. So that's an excellent thought.
Chief, so once more now, you are going to go out and you're going to assess the situation shortly and see if you are able to bring in troops and
Trucks.
and set up a perimeter.
I will try to go out and get myself in a position where I can get a vantage point of what I have earlier this evening. I was driving very close to that area. I was just, matter of fact, right behind the precinct building earlier this evening. And then I just kind of, when you're driving around the perimeter of the entire area, just to kind of assess what the sort of what the environment looked like. And as it became dark and a few more folks start to gather, that changes a little bit, changes that dynamic. So we'll go out and make another assessment. When I get out of the vehicle right now, when I stop here in a minute, I will call and get another assessment what they're visually seeing on the cameras, and I'll probably drive out and take an assessment myself, and then make a decision as soon as we can to go in and extinguish those fires.
All right.
All right.
Chief John Freutel, Minneapolis Fire Chief, thank you so much for joining us, and stay safe out there.
Yeah, call us if the public can be of service. You need some messages sent out, Chief. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thanks. I appreciate you guys.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Interesting. I thought 34 would be a small number of National Guard troops to have, and he was happy he had 34. It sounds
Probably
like
happy to have anything at this point, right?
It sounds like he'd like more.